The government of Ghana has reported $5.2 billion as revenue generated from gold exports in the first quarter of this year. This represents a 75% increase of revenue they generated from the gold exports in 2024. And so that is good news. And also, that means I was wrong. I was one of those people who was skeptical when President Mahama first formed the Gold Board and two, appointed Sammy Gyamfi, a person with no government or mining industry experience, to head the Gold Board. So what did Mahama get right? And what is Sammy Gyamfi doing right to lead to the revenue increase for the country? This is what I'm going to look into when I discuss the state of the gold industry in Ghana and the rest of the world in 2025. My name is Nebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer based in the US. And on this platform, I like to look at issues from a more intellectual point of view. So usually when people talk about illegal mining or small-scale mining or galamsey, they focus on the environmental and social impact of illegal mining or small-scale mining. And those impacts are real, and we need to address them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the economic state of the gold industry on this show this week. And you can subscribe to my channel if intellectual conversations are something you are interested in. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think about my thoughts. Let's start with a quote I hang in my bedroom. The quote is, "Talent plus effort plus luck is equal to success." This is a quote from Sean Carter. He shared it in an interview with Oprah Winfrey for the O magazine years ago. And that quote really spoke to me because what he was saying was that talent, your natural abilities, effort, your personal hard work, and luck, divine involvement leads to success. And I believe strongly that that is the basic ingredient of success. And you will be wondering, what has all this got to do with the gold industry? Good question. Gold is a natural resource deposited in the lands of Ghana. So that means gold is a talent. So in the Bible, for example, the word talent is sometimes used to represent money. And so I'm using the word talent here to represent money, which gold is. So the natural resource of gold is the talent Ghana has. And Ghana has so much abundance of gold, so much so that we used to be called the Gold Coast before we changed our name to Ghana, right? And let's move to effort. Even though Ghana have had gold, our country hasn't always benefited from the gold. Every government in my lifetime have tried to arrest the menace of galamsey. Galamsey have bedeviled Ghana, and the evils of galamsey are evident in our water bodies being polluted day in, day out. From Kufuor to Mahama first to Mills to Akufo-Addo, all of them have tried to put in effort to arrest the evils of galamsey. And all of them have been unsuccessful. It looks like galamsey only keeps getting worse. For example, it is reported that as of 2024, Ghana's biggest import from China in terms of revenue was excavators, which means that people are still mining illegally in Ghana. But government wasn't making money from it. How is that? So, for example, in 2019, Ghana government reported about, I think, 36 tons of small-scale mining in Ghana, right? And so government thought it was good to put taxes on small-scale mining. So government thought that the way to curb small-scale mining is by taxing small-scale. It looks like Akufo-Addo's government thought that tax was the problem, the solution to every problem. And so they put taxes on small-scale mining. And what happened is that as of 2021, it was reported that Ghana uh, was as of 2021, government reported 3 tons of illegal mining gold or illegally mined gold. And do anybody who is Ghanaian think only 3 tons of gold were mined in 2021? No. What that meant was that because government put tax on small-scale miners, they changed their trade route. So instead of reporting their mining earnings or selling the gold to government, what they did was they smuggled the gold out of the country through Burkina Faso, through Ivory Coast, and the rest. So government started losing revenue from illegal mining because of the taxes. So the tax that government thought was the way to curb illegal mining failed because it increased smuggling. And so government recognized that, Akufo-Addo government recognized that illegal mining, their solution, which was taxes, didn't work. So they decreased the taxes from 3% to 1.5%. Still didn't work. And so it is with this background that when Mahama took office in 2025, they set up GOLDBOD. And I was skeptical of GOLDBOD for different reasons. Let me tell you my first reason. Anytime government recognizes a problem, the first thing they do is set up new institutions. For example, corruption was an issue Akufo-Addo government said they wanted to address. And they thought the way to address corruption was to set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor. I thought that was a waste of taxpayers' money. Here's why. Ghana already have like 4 bodies assigned with fighting corruption. We have YOCO, Economic and Organized Crime Office. We have SHRAD, Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice. We have the police have a special crime unit, and special financial crime unit. And all these entities existed for fighting corruption and other financial crimes. And so we didn't need a special prosecutor's office, but we set up a special prosecutor's office. And what did they do? Nothing. They didn't do anything to stop corruption under Akufo-Addo. And so I thought GOLDBOD was going to be another special prosecutor's office, but it turned out that GOLDBOD was different. What Mahama did was they replaced an old entity, which was the precious mineral mining company, with GOLDBOD, and they took the small-scale mining licensing from the Mineral Commission and put it under the GOLDBOD. And so they didn't just set up a new body. What they did was they reassigned old roles to this new body and made it rigorous. How did they do that? So usually, because the Mineral Commission and then the Precious Mineral Mining Company are 2 different entities, they do not communicate. So somebody may have a mining license, but it doesn't mean that government or the PMMC know that this person have mining license. So by having the licensing and then the purchasing be done by the same body, now the purchaser know who has the license. And I thought, that sounded simplistic, but it worked. Because as of this, I think May 2025, it has been reported that for the first time in the history of Ghana, small-scale mining gold or small-scale mined gold have suppressed large-scale mined gold as the source of export. So Ghana small-scale miners are mining even more gold than the large-scale miners. What this means is that, indeed, small-scale miners have been mining more than the large-scale miners in the last 5 years. And I said the last 5 years, I'll explain why. In the last 5 years, and we didn't know about it until this moment. Now, what do I mean by the last 5 years? This is where we get to our third factor, lack. When preparation meets opportunity, it leads to success. And the GOLDBOD is a case of preparation meeting opportunity. And what is opportunity here? In every misfortune, there is fortune. And the misfortune here is, from 2020, there's been a lot of uncertainty in the world. So COVID hit the world with high level of uncertainty, and which led to high level of geopolitical risk and policy unpredictability in the world. So 2020, COVID, that is first misfortune. Second misfortune, 2022, when Russia attacked Ukraine and the US and the EU and others couldn't do enough to protect Ukraine, it further created even more geopolitical risk in the world, leading to more misfortune. Misfortune number 2, Russia-Ukraine. Misfortune number 3, the Israel and Gaza war have been going on for years. Since I've been born, I always hear about Israel and Palestinians being at war. But I think social media, TikTok to be specific, has made a lot of people pay attention to this war and is creating even more unpredictability in the world. So Gaza war 3. And the fourth and final one is the BRICS. So a lot of countries are now trying to move away from the US dollar as their basis for store of value. De-dollarization is happening across the world, and a lot of people in the world, or a lot of economists and specifically American politicians, are blaming Trump and Trump's tariff as the reason for de-dollarization in the world. But I think that Americans like to blame one person for all their problems when most of their problems are systematic, because de-dollarization started from 2020 when COVID happened, and then everybody realized that money is unsafe. Because when COVID happened, the US had printed a lot of dollars, and so because there was very little economic activities happening in the world, the dollar was sort of pointless, so the dollar was sort of falling, and so that was a big red flag. But what really tipped the red flag was Ukraine. And I don't want to blame Biden for how he handled Ukraine. I will blame the world as it is now. Everybody in the world these days is focused on doing things for themselves and not the globe. So for a very long time, the US have taken the position of being the big daddy of the world. America have decided since World War II to be the big brother of the world. So whenever there is conflict anywhere in the world, the US is either directly involved in the conflict or involved in trying to resolve the conflict. Very hardly does a conflict happen anywhere in the world without the US involvement. The Russia and Ukraine war that started in 2022 was a bit different, because When Russia attacked Ukraine, the US was expected to act on behalf of the Ukraine, but Biden couldn't act on behalf of Ukraine for different reasons. There are some people who thought that Russia attacking Ukraine was because Biden was weak on how he moved American troops from Afghanistan. I do not subscribe to that school of thought, but it's a legitimate school of thought. What I think happened was when Russia attacked Ukraine, Biden didn't act because Biden couldn't act. When Russia attacked Ukraine in 2022, it was just before the US is about to have their midterm elections. And normally, wars are a good thing for the US government because they get to spend a lot of money. But the Ukraine war was different because Americans were struggling because of COVID. So the US government sending billions of dollars to help Ukraine in the midst of an ongoing national financial crisis was not the smartest political move. And so Biden's hand was sort of tied. And so when Biden's hand was tied, it makes countries like Poland realize that we cannot rely on the US to help us all the time. So Poland, an ally of the US, started de-dollarization in 2022. So you see, it's not like de-dollarization is just the enemies of the US. Even friends of the US are like, we can't rely on the US all the time. So de-dollarization started with Poland. Another country that started de-dollarization was Azerbaijan. Is it Azerbaijan? And Azerbaijan is also close to Russia. So countries which are close to Russia started buying gold because they realized that we need gold. Why do you need gold? Whenever there is crisis in the world and you need to buy maybe weapons or something, if you have gold, you can exchange it for more weapons or whatever. So it's safer, according to some countries, to store value in gold than in dollars. And so more countries started buying gold, right? And so this started in 2022. And Trump took office. And misfortune number 5. Trump introduced the tariff, which upsetted the entire world economic system. The economic system in the world that have existed for decades was changed overnight with just an announcement by President Trump. And so President Trump's tariff is the 5th misfortune that has led to the world becoming even more predictable. And so as we speak today in 2025, the value of gold is the highest that's ever been in the history of the world. Gold is trading at 3,600 to 3,700 per ton on the world market today. What does that tell you? More people are buying gold. And that's why I said luck. So it just so happens that because of all the misfortunes in the world, people need more gold, and GOLDBOD is positioned to trade more gold. And so Ghana is making more revenue from gold. I think Ghana is back to being the 6th largest producer or exporter of gold in the world today. And so the talent, the effort of the government, and then the misfortune of the world have put Ghana in the position to generate more revenue from gold. And I don't know whether to be happy about it or sad about it. Sad for the world, but happy that at least Ghana is making something from the misfortune in the world. That is the state of the gold industry in 2025. What do you think? Where do you think the gold industry is going to be soon? Do you think that the price of gold is going to keep going up or it's going to come down at some point? Tell me what you think. And subscribe to this channel if you're interested in this type of conversations.